Hi there guys, so Chris Eubank Jr. has joined up with Roy Jones Jr. in Miami, and Roy Jones will be training Chris Eubank Jr. for the foreseeable future. Now obviously, Chris Eubank's former trainer was Nate Diaz, who trained him in the DeGale fight, but after that, it seemed like maybe that wasn't going to work out. So now Chris Eubank Jr. has been travelling around, looking at different trainers, looking at different styles, and different trainers to train him, and Roy Jones Jr. is where he has ended up. He worked previously for a little bit with Virgil Hunter, and after that, he has now moved on to Roy Jones Jr. Now, what does Chris Eubank Jr. hope to achieve by working with Roy Jones Jr.? Well, first of all, Chris Eubank Jr. isn't the best technically. He's a very strong fighter, good engine, but ultimately, he's not the best boxer. He's got flat feet, and he doesn't move as fast as he needs to, because he has fast hands, but he has slow feet. Good power, good out-and-out fighter, and good hand speed. But ultimately, he doesn't have the best boxing IQ, or in fact it's more like his feet are too slow to get him in and out of range like he needs to, because if he has fast hands and he wants to throw flurries like he does, he needs to be able to jump in and out of range. And what was Roy Jones Jr. good for and known for in his career? The ability to go from attack to defense to attack seamlessly. So that is what I believe Chris Eubank Jr. is looking to achieve by going over and training with Roy Jones Jr. to try and learn the fundamental skills of jumping in and out of range, because Roy Jones Jr. was the master at it. There was no one really better than Roy Jones Jr. at doing that, especially in his prime. If you go back and watch him, you can see just how skilled he was. In the Montel Griffin rematch, he knocked him out throwing only a left hook against a world champion. He went in there, knocked him out in the first round, and the only punch he really threw was a left hook. And that's not a reflection on Montel Griffin, that's just a reflection on how good Roy Jones Jr. was to go in there looking to be destructive and taking his man out in the first round. In a rematch as well, where he lost the first fight, albeit by disqualification, but he still lost that fight, came back, and just absolutely destroyed Montel Griffin. And where Roy Jones Jr. excelled is where Chris Eubank Jr. struggles, footwork. So, as I said, Chris Eubank Jr. has slower feet than his hand speed. His hand speed is very fast, he's very powerful as well. That is because he does plant his feet. He is flat-footed, but obviously that has a handle on the reason why he is able to punch so hard, because he does hold his feet. Whereas if he's going to be moving a lot more, and maybe not sitting down on his punches so much, the power will diminish. But that is something that he's going to need to do, because he does get found out at top level. Against Billy Joe Saunders, couldn't do much with him. I mean, it was close, but ultimately he did lose that fight. And against George Groves, he just got outboxed, and George Groves kind of old-manned him out of there. Slight adjustments with his feet, and a good jab, and hitting him with a straight right hand any time he tried to rush in. And wrapping him up quickly on the inside, making sure that Chris Eubank Jr. wasn't able to work. And by the end of the fight, people said that George Groves would be tired, but it was the other way around. Chris Eubank Jr. was knackered, and that was just because George Groves was making it difficult for him, setting the pace, setting the tone of the fight. Chris Eubank Jr. wasn't. And George Groves was the natural super middleweight. Chris Eubank Jr. was not. So George Groves had the weight and the strength to tie Chris Eubank Jr. up on the inside and make sure he wasn't able to work when he wanted to. And when Chris Eubank Jr. was trying to pull himself free on the inside and try and work, that was when he was zapping his energy. And by the end of the fight, there wasn't much left for Chris Eubank Jr. So working with Roy Jones Jr. will be to help Chris Eubank Jr. with his movement. As I said, his power will diminish as a result of it. But ultimately what he needs to do is work on his boxing. Because when he moves up to the top level, standing there, trading, throwing bombs, won't win the fight for him. It does work for him at a lower level, but when he goes in there with the likes of a Charlo, that is when he is going to need his boxing ability as well as his power and strength. It's not just all about brute force, it's about skill and having a game plan of how to beat your opponent. Even in the James DeGale fight, Chris Eubank Jr. did look slightly improved, but it was still similar. It was still slower feet, fast hands. I mean, he done his homework because he knew everything that James DeGale was going to do. But ultimately, he was still slow on his feet. He was still flat-footed. And that is something that he needs to rectify if he wants to become a world champion. Because stepping up to that level requires something completely different from just planting your feet and trading with your opponent. Because they won't trade. They'll take their punches and be gone. Whereas Chris Eubank Jr. will still be stood there in the pocket trying to trade. And he'll get peppered with punches, and he will not be winning the rounds. I think we can tell by now, he's very durable. No one really is going to knock him out unless they go to the body, because I do believe that Chris Eubank Jr. has a granite chin. But ultimately, it's not just about being brave and brute force. It's about being a good boxer and using your boxing ability, about winning rounds. Not just about being brave and taking punches to land a few. It's about winning the rounds. If the knockout comes, the knockout comes. But it has to come organically. You can't go in there from the first round looking for a knockout against a world champion, because you will get found out every single time, aka the George Groves fight. But anyway, guys, what are your thoughts on this? Chris Eubank Jr. has linked up with Roy Jones Jr. and for the foreseeable future will be working with him. Guys, drop your thoughts in the comments below, click the thumbs up and subscribe if you are new. Thanks guys.